What's up, everybody? This is Corey from How To Tech, and we are going to go ahead and reassemble the LG G5. What I'm going to use to adhere this display to the housing here is some Venka B7000 glue. LG used glue rather than adhesive, double-sided sticky tape to put its display onto the phone. So we're going to use the same glue to kind of put it back on. This is basically used in bonding anything. It's kind of like rubber cement to 2 degrees, so it's got a little bit of play in it. We're not going to put a ton on here. We're just going to kind of dab it on, and it doesn't take a lot to hold the screen on to the bezel here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take it, and on these thinner parts, just kind of squeeze it slightly and pull it so it only is the thickness of the actual bezel or the frame of the phone here. So just take your time, and you don't want a lot of glue in here. You don't need any excess. So if you get it to kind of bubble up on the end, don't just put it all on there, just pull it away. Also, at the very top of the phone, you want to be careful. We don't need this glue to squeeze out into the front-facing camera area. So we're going to kind of skip that little area and just go around right above the earpiece speaker, just the top of the phone. And see, I didn't do anything on the interior portion, just a little bit down there towards the bottom on the right side. And then we'll go ahead and do the opposite side of this phone here as well. And you can see that I'm not using very much. Now, if you do get too much on there, you'll want to kind of pull it away. It also will help it in not having to do so much cleanup to get it go back into the housing of the phone as well. So let's go ahead and put the display in. You need to make sure the ribbon cable goes all the way through. So make sure that when you're putting it in, all of the cable goes all the way through into the rear of the device. And then we're going to hold it with our thumb and middle finger. We're going to put the bottom portion of the phone in first, and then just kind of walk up to the top of the device here. Now also, we don't want excess glue because this being an LCD, we don't need any pressure points being shown. So we're just going to kind of squish it down, put something heavy on the back of it, not extremely heavy, maybe a medium-sized book, and let it cure for 24 hours. That's what I did before I put mine back together. So we're going to skip to it being set aside for 24 hours. We're going to go ahead and make sure the display cable is back in place. There's some little tiny tabs that the display cable needs to fit into. Make sure that those are in the right place. We'll put the earpiece speaker back in place also, making sure that it sits nice and flush with the phone. You need to make sure you attach both of the rear-facing cameras to the logic board. Really, you could probably get away with just doing the black one, but both just makes it a little bit easier. Then you don't have to fiddle with the phone and getting it to pop out. So one of the hardest part of putting this whole thing back together was getting this to seat properly back into the housing here. We'll go ahead and reattach our display cable. You may have to wiggle it around a little bit to get it to sit properly. Normally the black camera on the back doesn't want to seat. You may have to wiggle it to kind of fit it back into its housing properly. And you'll almost kind of feel it snap back into place. And it'll sit a little bit more flush when it's finished. There we go. Now we have it back in place. Now the next step is to go ahead and put back in our front-facing camera. So we will go ahead and snap that back in its slot as well. Make sure that the glass in front of it is clean before you do that, so you can get some dust-free selfies in there when you put it back together. So go ahead and put all of our 6 screws back in, and these are easily visible. Basically, they're all the gold area round circles on the back of the board. So go ahead and put these 6 screws back in. Now, one thing that you'd also want to do at this point is clean up any glue residue around the edges of the phone. When you snap this back into the semi-plastic, semi-metal housing, we don't want any bits of glue in there causing it to not fit properly. So make sure that you've either cut it off or peel it off with your fingers to make sure that it's going to sit back in there nice and snug. I'm going to put the 2 screws in down here at the bottom of the phone, at the bottom side of the logic board. And this is going together pretty quick. In my mind, this is one of the easier phones to reassemble. So now that we have that done, we have our backing. We're going to take the top portion and slide it up nice and tight towards the top of the display. And we're going to push in one side completely. And you'll feel it snap back into place. And the second side, you may have to push a little bit harder. Be careful not to damage your display. Just give it a nice even force and it'll kind of snap back in. Work your way around all the sides, the top portion. Make sure everything's put back in tightly. Now with that done, we can go ahead and put in the two bottom screws into the housing. And we want to put these in nice and snug, but not extremely tight. Alright, now with both of those done, we can go ahead and put our battery module back in place. You can go ahead and power your device on at this point, and there you have it. That is the reassembly of the LG G5. If you're looking for the glue link, I got mine from Amazon. I'll throw that down in the description and the tools below. As always, I appreciate you watching the video. Hope to catch you in the next one. Peace.